Marvel theories are popular among comic book and MCU fans who enjoy speculating about what will happen in upcoming storylines, and that's what we're here to do today. I'm your host, Amanda McKnight, aka VampX13, but you can call me Vampy, and today we're counting down the top 10 Avengers 5 theories that might be true. What is the most likely theory you have heard or have come up with yourself for Avengers 5? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Kang Evolution. Kang. The future seems uncertain for this major Avengers villain in the MCU, but I have a theory for what might happen should we want to keep the character as part of the narrative. However, when it comes to Kang, he has worn many faces across time, and it is possible that Kang could actually be, well, pretty much anyone, and that time could have changed his appearance. While we've seemingly established that variants basically have to look exactly like themselves, this doesn't always have to be the case. We could redefine sort of that rule. We could question that and just re-establish it so that it isn't so. This would open us up to keeping the Kang angle while potentially recasting if need be and having it all make sense. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any good nerdy content. Number 9. New Avengers. The old Avengers are out and the new Avengers may be in. I think we'll see a completely new lineup of a team of recently introduced characters. In the comics, this team, which was editorially known as the New Avengers but in canon just went by the name Avengers, was made up of Luke Cage, Ronan, Bucky Barnes, Carol Danvers, Mockingbird, Spider-Man, Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, and Wolverine. In the MCU, if we were to have our own team of New Avengers, I'd put forward a roster that featured Sorcerer Supreme Wong, Shang-Chi, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Sam Wilson's Captain America, White Vision, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk. Kind of a weird team, to be honest, but also definitely an interesting one. Number 8. Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four were being written about only last month as if the project was pretty much cast. However, having gone back to take another look at some of those articles, it seems as though we aren't as close to having the main team cast as was first suspected. Honestly, I was skeptical when people started talking about the casting as though it was done. I was like, I feel like we're way far out, but if you say so. However, rumors have still been flying about in regards to Pedro Pascal being nearly cast as Reed Richards, depending on sort of his shooting schedule with other projects, and some other performers being nearly settled on in terms of other members of the first family. I wouldn't be surprised if we get at least a reference to them, if not a cameo of them even, in Avengers 5, maybe in the post-credits. Keep your eyes peeled for Easter eggs when we get there is all I'm gonna say, because I feel like Avengers 5 is gonna have lots of references to the Fantastic Four. Number 7. X-Men collide with the main continuity. For those who missed it, the X-Men were teased at during the post-credits scene of the Marvels. Here we saw Monica Rambeau after she was trapped in an alternate universe recovered by a variant seemingly of her mom, who is also a variant of Captain Marvel, it would seem, as she appears to be the hero binary, one of Captain Marvel's other mantles she has worn in the comics. For those that don't know, Carol, despite not being a mutant, was actually once a super close ally to the X-Men in the comics, even fighting alongside them for quite a while. Beast's Hank McCoy was also there to take and analyze Monica's readings, and it seems that she had been found and taken in by the X-Men in this alternate world. Well, what does this mean? Considering that Secret Wars is on the agenda and incursions were hinted at in Multiverse of Madness, I'm hoping the X-Men will come to the main continuity via their world colliding with the main MCU continuity. That's what makes the most sense given the information I have so far, but either way, it seems that Marvel wants to let us know that yes, the X-Men will be coming soon. Just how soon, we'll have to wait and see. But hopefully in Avengers 5, that would be really awesome. Number 6. White Vision joins the team. White Vision seems to be like a loose end that everyone at Marvel and Disney forgot existed, but I'm hoping that the MCU picks up this loose thread and does something with it soon. White Vision could be added to an Avengers team, maybe even the West Coast Avengers could show up, or perhaps he could be a sub-boss who is converted back into being good. I know that it's likely if we do see him, he'll be Avengers adjacent in some way, since that's where he originally sort of started out as regular Vision, or he might show up in Armor Wars. Either way, I'm hopeful that he will return and not just be another missing piece of this honestly mess of an MCU puzzle. Number 5. Scarlet Witch will return. Scarlet Witch is one of my favorite characters in the comics and the MCU. I love her as both a hero and a villain personally. Just Wanda can do no wrong in my mind, but I was a little sad to see her go in Multiverse of Madness, especially when, based on everything that happened in WandaVision, you would think that Wanda would not have behaved quite so ruthlessly as she did in that movie. I mean, I know she wanted her children back at basically any cost, but to take them from their mother, which was basically a variant of her, seems a little out of character. I know the Darkhold was royally messing with her, which is how we justify that, but it felt like we were taking somewhat of a step backward when it came to her development as a character with everything we did in WandaVision. I was willing to let it slide because I love an evil Wanda, and honestly overall I did enjoy the movie, but at the same time it would be sad to me if this was actually the end of her story. While Elizabeth Olsen has said she's pretty much done with superhero movies for now, I'm honestly a little skeptical. I think if offered an acting challenge like she had with WandaVision, she might return to give the character a hopefully more heroic send-off. Or it might be possible if the X-Men do show up that both Wanda and Pietro could return via variants of themselves who are back to being mutants and are aligned with the Brotherhood like in the classic X-Men days. It sounds wild, but it would be delightful if something like that happened, at least for me. And that way, if Elizabeth Olsen wasn't interested, they could always potentially recast, because this version would be a variant, so it doesn't have to be the same actor. Number 4. Young Avengers. The Young Avengers is a team I have been hoping to see for quite some time in the MCU. It feels like we've been building to this since the days of WandaVision, which honestly feels like it was forever ago, but really only came out nearly 3 years ago. Though really 3 years in cinematic time really does feel like forever, doesn't it? Ever since I saw Billy and Tommy appear as Wanda's reality warp created children, I was wondering, will we get the Young Avengers, and if so, when? Since then, we've gotten a cameo of Eli Bradley in Disney Plus's streaming series Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as well as Kate Bishop being introduced in Hawkeye and America Chavez in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Additionally, we've also been introduced to 2 younger heroes as well, with Kamala Khan's Ms. Marvel appearing in her own show and The Marvels, and Black Widow's adopted younger sister Yelena Belova, known alternatively as the White Widow in the comics and the Black Widow in the MCU, although neither of them have been part of the Young Avengers team in the comics. Still, based on the fact that Ms. Marvel appears at the end of the Marvels to recruit Kate Bishop to her own younger team of heroes, it's likely that we'll either be getting Young Avengers or the Champions in the MCU at some point. And maybe Avengers 5 will be that point. Maybe they'll be the new Avengers, the Young Avengers, or the Champions if that's the name we go with. I think Young Avengers makes more sense even if it is more of a Champions team. Number 3. Mirrodin. Who is Mirrodin? Well, we don't really know, but what we do know is he or she or they is a new major villain in Avengers comics. Nothing much has been established about them, but what we know is they were powerful enough to almost kill Kang off in the Timeless series. Mirrodin wears a mask, so it seems likely to me that they will be revealed as someone we already know from the comics. Many of the signs from the comics so far seem to suggest that this might be Merlin in disguise. An alternate version of the name Mirrodin, which is spelt a little bit differently, is one that Merlin has used before, and this villain seems to have an obsession with chess games, which is also something that we know about Merlin, seeing him fight against his enemies as such, both literally and metaphorically, which is also something Merlin has just really been known to do. So there are quite a few similarities here in the comics, not to mention that Merlin is often known to be a fan of disguises. The question is, could Mirrodin be a replacement for Kang in the MCU, or could they somehow also be involved in that story, or at least the original story that we had for Avengers 5? I don't know. Sometimes the comics reflects the MCU or vice versa, so we'd have to wait and see. Number 2. Doctor Doom. What could happen if Kang was actually ditched instead in the MCU? If we abandon the entire plot, what are we left with? Some have theorized that instead we could see an even more iconic villain introduced in Kang's place. We're talking about Doctor Doom. Now, Doctor Doom coming in could be really cool, but I think for that to be the solution, we'd first perhaps need the Fantastic Four to at least be alluded to. I mean, Doom is a great villain overall, but I just can't see him being introduced first as an Avengers villain. I'd actually love to see the FF and the new Avengers team, whoever that ends up being, team up to take on Doom. That could be a fun first story for the FF, a good way to bring them in, that might also allow us to introduce them without being so focused on, their origin story, which honestly, we've heard a bunch, and I don't even know how you do it in a modern era and make it make sense or make it super interesting. Number 1. Thanos. Another cool villain idea that some folks have is the return of Thanos. While Thanos is seemingly dead and gone, with variants being established as a thing through the Loki series and the TVA, this actually feels kind of more likely at this point. Also, in in the comics we've seen Thanos come back from the dead before, and he's a villain we already know and love, so you just wouldn't have to introduce him to viewers, he could just be there. Plus, he delivers a bonus hit of nostalgia to fans of the old MCU days who miss that sense of familiarity, so it might be a good place for them to go if they want to play on that nostalgia factor. That's about it. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.